During the month of August, we received within 3 days more rainfall than falls in an entire year. This is not a lake, but rather high water from our very small river that rarely rises more than 2 or 3 inches with high water. Yet it's about 4 meters out of its bank, and this is all hay fields that are flooded. We had a nice full moon. These are shots taken out my living room window. Even though the moon was full, it was really dark in the town, as you can see once again, shot from my living room window. The next morning, after the full moon, I looked out the window, and here were some unexpected guests. Not sure who they belonged to, but they seemed pretty comfortable out there in the grass. Put a lot of miles on the camper this summer. Did not do very much filming. Had other priorities instead. But did manage to take a few shots and run the onboard window camera to at least film the really pretty areas that I drove through. Of course, finding a nice thunderstorm in a high mountain area is different than on flat land. It seems like the lightning and thunder is right out the window, and it really rained. Driving along, it's hard to tell from the camera angle, but the roads are very steep, and in some areas they seem to go almost straight up, and it seems like there's road construction everywhere, even out in the middle of nowhere.
Garbage going on all mile wide.
I really enjoy driving through the mountains. The scenery changes, it seems like, after every curve you go through. I've avoided all of the main roads as much as possible and sought out the back roads to go through, because it seems like on the back roads you come across the most beautiful scenery. The film is probably a little bit boring compared to most of the stuff I make, but most of it is driving shots that I wanted to share with you. Driving through the Erzgiberge region, which is a large foothill area of the Alps that is through the state of Thüringen and North Bayern. Again, the roads are deceiving. I can remember quite well that this one seemed to be going straight up. And these small towns are just really incredible. They sit right directly on the road. Pull over here for a moment, as I don't travel as fast as the speed limit allows, and traffic does have a tendency to pile up behind me, so whenever I get a chance I pull off and let them go by. I don't know what the name of this town is, I don't remember, but I never lived in a house in all my life where I walked out the front door and had to look so I didn't get run over by a car. These things are really close to the street. really enjoy driving through these towns because they're so different from what I'm used to. And it seems like one is right on top of the next one. I don't know if there's even yards available in some of these houses. That's not a distortion of the lens. That house is really triangle shaped. Interesting concept of construction. The roads in this small town called a Dorf are really much steeper than what they appear to be again from the camera angle. It seems like you're going straight up. You can see on the sides of these houses the foundation, what a drop is in just a few meters. This is one of the larger of the very small towns that I drove through, but it was only a couple of kilometers long. I was really pleased with the performance in the camper, considering the little tiny 4-cylinder engine, diesel. It did a really good job. Camper is also a 4-wheel drive unit, which makes climbing hills and going through bad areas much easier than in a normal RV. Finally came to a nice area to spend the night. It was pretty high up in altitude, even though it doesn't look like mountains. They are. Just at the end of this rise here, on the other side of that hill, is Chechnya, which is the former Czechoslovakia. No camping place, just a few electrical outlets set out there that you drop a couple of Oro in and get powered up for the night. Again, pulling over to the side to let a long line of traffic get by. There's practically zero opportunity to pass anyone on these roads. And most everyone is in a larger hurry than I am, so I don't mind taking a little extra time, letting them get by. and take a little rest and stretch my legs and look out over the valley. Then back through another little town. This one is really close to the sides of the road. Yeah, when you get off the main street, this is what you see, and this is the interesting part that I find when I travel. I don't have the slightest idea where we are. I just know that it's really pretty and it's a very small road with, as you can see, no traffic. That's the way I like to travel. Pulled off the road again for another rest stop, stretched my legs, and here came one of the short run trains. They're almost like a train taxi. Yeah, they're pretty small. They're not for any long distance. They're not built for any long distance runs. A really pretty high mountain lake where I parked the camper and spent the night. Don't know where it's at. Just somewhere in the Erzgiberge. It says, "Don't dream your life, live your dream." And here we are in Bruchhausen-Vilsen, and there's a great big club of antique train collectors, I suppose you could say. And throughout the entire town are different old, obsolete train cars. And I found that very interesting. Short look at the high water by Rossow. That's not a lake, that's the river out of its banks. And here we find ourselves somewhere on the Elbe by Hamburg. The tide is out, and this is a very tide-intensive river. And the gray areas are not water, they're just wet sand. Normally that is all navigable by smaller boats. And there are channels dug out in the sand banks, I suppose you could call them. And larger barges travel down these channels. Of course, in about another hour, they won't be able to travel down through these either because the tide height is quite intensive. This is the last water taxi that's leaving the area for many hours to come until there's enough water to float back in, deliver people back on this side of the river. It's quite an interesting system of water taxis around Hamburg. I've never seen anything like that before. There was enough water for a few other creatures. But not all. Some had to walk. Hey, wait for me, wait for me. We find ourselves now in the Eilendorfer Heide by Buxtehude, which is just a little bit away from Hamburg. A really beautiful semi-wild area with vast pink fields made up of this stuff. I don't know what it's called, but it's pink and it's everywhere, and it's really, really pretty. Now we're close back home to Rossow and to Krugsdorf See. It's a man-made lake. It's an old gravel pit that is filled with water, and it has a really pretty landscape around it. One of the paths that you can walk around. Brings us to the closing shot again of the high water. I hope you enjoyed traveling a little bit through Europe with me. Have a great day. Bye-bye.